the CEO and instructor of Jumpstart with Jewel. We offer tutoring and educational services for adolescent and adult students. And we also specialize in assisting students that have ADHD or autism, dyslexia, any medical issues that may keep the child or the adult out of a traditional learning setting. So we are happy to assist students of all kinds. And I've been on here for a couple of weeks just helping my students and helping others that are having issues with fractions. I shared before how fractions are one of the topics that my students, adult and adolescent students, seem to struggle with the most. Hey, Nikki, how are you? It's good to see you. For some reason, I can't see your comments on Periscope. I don't know what's going on. So I'm glad to see you. It's good to see you. So yesterday we did mixed numbers with like denominators, being the same number. And then today we're going to do some mixed numbers, adding and subtracting mixed numbers with unlike denominators, meaning different denominators, okay? So let me get my pen. And if you remember from before, when we talk about mixed numbers, it is a whole number with a fraction. Hello there on Facebook. How are you? So let me pull this up. Oh, let me just double check one thing. Okay, good. Okay, I had to make sure something was working. So let's see. Let me get my pen going. Okay. So, let's do 10 2/3. So adding or subtracting mixed numbers with unlike denominators is the same, pretty much the same as adding or subtracting fractions. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. With unlike denominators, it's just that you have a whole number there as well to think about to add or either subtract. So sometimes when my students see the mixed number, they get a little intimidated, but there's no need for that. It's pretty simple. So here we have a fraction. Our fraction is 10 2/3 plus 7 1/7. So the first thing you have to do, you cannot add or subtract a fraction unless they have the same denominator. The denominator, of course, is the number on the bottom, the 3 and the 7. So the first thing that you have to do is find the LCD. Hello there, how are you on Periscope? So you have to find the LCD. If you all remember, the LCD, that's the least common denominator. It is the number, it's the multiple. When we talk about multiples during multiplication, it's the answer, the multiples. What are the multiples? They have to have the same multiple. So when you think about 3 and 7, what are some of the multiples? And I say multiples, I mean like when you're dealing with threes, the multiples of 3, 6, 9, 12, and so forth. The multiples of 7, 14, 21, 28. Those numbers, those answers, when you're multiplying the numbers together. So in this case, the multiple, the LCD of 3 and 7 is going to be 21. Sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the lowest common denominator can actually be the two numbers in the denominator multiplied together. Sometimes, not all the time though. So it's best to, if you have to list them, if you're not sure of your multiplication facts, if you have to sit there and list the multiples, okay, 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. If you have to do that, then that's fine. Go ahead and keep going. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 7 is 21. Then if you have to do your 7, okay, what are the multiples of 7? 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. So you see here 21. They both have a multiple of 21. It's the LCD, the least or the lowest common denominator. So the next thing you have to do is you have to convert the denominators. Convert the denominators to 21. You have to figure out what numbers, when you multiply these denominators, what number, what factor can you multiply the 3 and the 7 by to make it 21. So if you know your multiplication facts, and I always tell my students, it's best to learn your multiplication facts, because number one, you're always going to have to need to know how to multiply. You're going to need that regardless, forever. Multiplication is a life skill. I don't care what you're doing, what career you're in, you're going to have to know how to multiply. And also, it makes it easier when you're doing fractions if you know your multiplication facts. So we look at our denominator. It's a 3 right now. What number do I need to multiply this 3 by to turn it into 21? The missing factor is a 7. 3 times 7 is 21. So with fractions, whatever you do to the bottom, to the denominator, you do to the top, the numerator, and vice versa. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So I'm going to have to multiply the 2 by 7 as well. I go over here to this fraction. I've got 1/7. I've got a 7 in my denominator. What number, when you multiply it by 7, gives you 21? It's a 3, because 3 times 7 is 21, right? So I'm going to have to multiply that 7 by 3. I'm going to do the same thing to my numerator. Hi on Facebook. Thank you for sharing it out. I appreciate it. So now we go ahead and we work this out. So let's write down our new fraction. 2 times 7 is 14. And then 3 times 7 is 21. 1 times 3 is 3. And then 7 times 3 is 21. The whole numbers, the 10 and the 7, you can just add those together if you want. That's going to give you 17. So if we add the numerators together, 14 plus 3 is 17. So we've put down our whole number. 10 plus 7 is 17. 14 plus 3 is 17. And then our denominator is still going to be 21. So our answer is 17 and 17 over 21, or 17/21. So that's the answer for that one. That's how you add mixed numbers with unlike denominators. Let me add another sheet. Is it going to let me do it? It may not. Let me just erase this one. Make it easy. Let's do another one. Okay. And even when you're subtracting, if you're doing a mixed number, that's subtraction. It's the same process. The process is the same of finding the LCD and converting the fraction. It's just at the very end, do you do the subtraction? So I thought I had a subtraction one on it. There we go. I have one as subtraction. So this one is 14 1/2 minus 8 and 2/10. So here we go again. Denominators are not the same. We have to convert them. We have to determine what is the LCD, what is the lowest common denominator, the least common denominator. Either way you say it is fine. So the number that they have most in common is a 10. If you think about the multiples of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And the multiples of 10, the first multiple of 10 is itself, 10. So we have to make sure that both of these denominators are 10. Since this fraction already over here, this 2/10 is already a 10, we don't have to do anything to this fraction. We leave it as it is. But the 1/2, that's the one that has to be converted to make the 10 a denominator. So I'm going to bring it down. I'm still going to bring everything down. even the whole numbers to make it easy. Minus 8, 2, 10. So what number, when you multiply it times 2, will turn it into a 10? That missing factor is a 5 because 2 times 5 is 10. So whatever you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. We have to also multiply the numerator by 5. So our new fraction, once we multiply it, 1 times 5 is going to be 5. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. And then we bring down that other fraction, 2/10. Since that's already a 10, we don't have to do anything with that. So if you subtract 5 from 2, or 2 from 5 rather, your answer is 3. The denominator is still going to be 10. And if you subtract your whole numbers, 14 minus 8 is 6. So that one is 6 3/10. So that's a perfect example of one that is subtraction. Let me see if I have another one. I'll do one more. That's addition. And just take your time. Sometimes some of my students, they make mistakes when they're rushing, when they don't like doing fractions. So they try to rush through it and they make mistakes. Hello there on Periscope. How are you? And I'm sorry if somebody's typing a comment. For some reason, I can't see the comments in Periscope. I may have to get another device or something so I can see it. It won't let me see it. So I apologize if you're talking to me and I don't see it. Let's try this one. This one is a little different. Let's see. 3. Oh, here we go. 3 7/8. Fix that 7. Plus 3 1/3. So first thing we have to do is to determine what the LCD is. What is going to be the least common denominator? We have to make sure that the denominator has the same number. We've got an 8 on the left and a 3 on the right. So if you know your multiplication facts, you may know right off the bat the LCD is 24. But if you don't know that, if you have to list them, go ahead and list them. What I usually tell my students, if they have two numbers here that aren't the same, I tell them to list the larger number first, the LCD for the bigger number first. Because usually if they see the bigger numbers multiples, they automatically know what the smaller one is. So for instance, the multiples of 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. When you think about 3, if you already know your 3 facts, you'll say, wait a minute, 24 is also a multiple of 3. But what if you don't? Then you have to list them. 3 times 3 is 1. It takes you a minute to get there. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. You got to keep going. 12, 15, 18. 3 times 7 is 21. And then 3 times 8 is 24. So there we see it's 24. 24 is going to be our LCD. So what do we have to do to convert our fractions now, to convert our denominators? So I always rewrite them. Okay. So in order to convert this 8 to 24, we have to multiply it by the factor. That when you multiply 8 times that factor, you get 24. So 8 times 3 equals 24. So in order to convert it, we're going to have to multiply 8 times 3. Whatever you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. So we're also going to have to multiply the numerator by 3. We go over here to this fraction on the right. We've got a 3 in our denominator. What number do you multiply 3 by to get 24? You multiply it by 8. So we got to multiply that by 8. And once again, whatever you do to the numerator or the denominator, whatever you do to one, you do to the other. So we got to multiply the numerator by 8. So let's do our multiplication. We've got 7 times 3 is going to be 21. 8 times 3 is 24. Bring down our plus symbol. 1 times 8 is 8. And then 3 times 8 is 24. So we haven't forgotten about our whole numbers, the 3 and 3. We'll get to those in a minute. So now we add these two together. 21 plus 8 is going to be 29. And our denominator is still 24. Now, if you know anything about fractions, we cannot leave this fraction like this. This is an improper fraction. Improper fraction is when the smaller number is on the bottom. We cannot leave it like that. So if you're not too familiar with improper fractions, I'll show you how to fix this. You can't leave this like this. You actually have to divide the denominator into the numerator, the 24 into the 29. And the way you do that is you just go over to the side if you have to. Some people can do it in their head, but if you don't, it's okay. Just go to the side, turn it into a division problem. Your 24 now becomes your divisor. Your 29 becomes your dividend. So how many times can 24 go into 29? If you have 29 apples, how many groups of 24 can you make out of 29 apples? It's only one, right? 24 will only go into 29 one time. 1 times 24 is 24. Then you subtract. 29 minus 24, it leaves you 5. Now, this is unlike a regular division problem where you would just put a remainder 5. Since these are fractions, you have to make this a fraction. So now this becomes 1. This 1 is your whole number because 24 went into 29 one time. 5 becomes your new numerator. And the fraction, the denominator, is still 24. So what happens is we had whole numbers up here. We had a 3 and a 3. The 3 and the 3 make a 6. Now we have 1 and 5/24. You actually have to add this all together. Add your whole numbers together. So you add the 6 plus the 1. That gives you 7. And you keep the fraction the same. 5/24. I know that was a lot. Sometimes you're going to have fractions where it takes a while to work it out. That's why it's best just to take your time, do your steps, and you'll get the right answer. So that's how you have to do that one. After you doing your division, if you've got a whole number, like we have a 1 here that became a whole number, we have to now add this whole number to the first set of whole numbers, and then you keep the new fraction. So that's how you do that when that answer is 7 and 5/24. So I hope this was helpful. I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for sharing. Okay, so you have an awesome, awesome day. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. So have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.